What do you mean the ads were disappointing? And somehow I'm not just talking about Nintendo? You know, true maturity is learning how to stop being a fanboy for corporations, and look, I get it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying products from a particular company. Naturally, with there being millions of different businesses in the world, you're obviously going to find one that consistently makes products that you like. For me, one of those companies is 8-Bit Do because their controllers are so solid. When I have friends and family over, they fight over the Famicom controller because it's so sick. And by the way, this is a 2D platformer beast. It even comes with a gyroscope if you need it. This is the kind of controller that Nintendo should have released with Mario Maker 2 because it was practically made for it. But I'm glad they didn't because it would have cost like $70, and I got this one for around $20 back in 2018. And if you could believe it, I still have yet to get stick drift on any of these controllers. By the way, that wasn't a sponsored segment or anything, they just make really good controllers. But here's the thing, while I'm obviously a fan of some of their output, my appreciation for the products they make isn't so that I'll sit down and watch a 30-minute ad about their upcoming controllers. Now maybe I'm just a cynical adult who's become immune to the approximation of joy and whimsy that corporations produce today, but that doesn't sound very appealing to me. But oh no, that sounds like a dream come true to some people because the Nintendo Switch 2 fandom revolves nearly, if not entirely, around the wait to be advertised to. Weeks upon months are spent attending the cult of consumerism where men, women, and children, but mostly men who scare women and behave like children, speculate about how Nintendo's going to rip them off while getting ripped off by videos with clickbait thumbnails. Yes, it's that time again because breaking news, underwhelming Nintendo console continues to be underwhelming. But also, why was so much hype built up over what was clearly designated as a partner direct? And honestly, this direct perfectly encapsulates the Switch 2 as an overhyped, underwhelming showcase of the worst way to play old games at the highest prices. Now, I'm not saying that Nintendo fans deserve this disappointment, but they're making it difficult for me to empathize with them because empathy requires some level of relatability, and I can't say that I relate to obsessive hate watching, temper tantrums, or mass consumption of conspiracy theories about glorified infomercials. But honestly, I'm just glad that people are so openly disappointed with Nintendo because that means shareholder value and interest in the company will continue to drop, and Nintendo will have to work to earn their profits again rather than feeling entitled to it. Now, if only more people could have had that energy when the console release, we could have been looking at a very different Switch 2 by now. And about the Direct itself, the only game that really looked like it was worth anything was that 80s anime looking game, but that wasn't worth the other 29 minutes I would have wasted watching this thing. Not even my beloved Bomberman was spared from the Switch 2's mediocrity. A bunch of 30-year-old ROMs for $25? Who do you think you are, Sega? And I'm not saying that it was justified when Sega did it either, mind you, but it's not 2005 anymore. Why not a hand-drawn remake that resembles the box art? A new art style would at least turn heads. But honestly, it was my mistake for having standards for Konami in the first place. And if you're here to tell me that this absolutely pitiful display is somehow indicative of the Switch 2's sales success, TM, then it would behoove you to actually pay attention to the company you claim to love so much. Even though Nintendo themselves are delusional for thinking that the combination of $80 games and the most blatant consumer hostile behavior would be profitable in this market, but the high produced from the fastest selling console headlines wasn't so strong as to convince them that their 2025 numbers are actually any good. But honestly, at this point, I'm on Nintendo's side, not the fan side, corporate Nintendo side, because we're both doing our best to convince the fan base that the Switch 2 is a scam. So you know what? I agree. Raise the prices. Yes, devalue both the brand and the value of NSO by padding out the library with a bunch of Virtual Boy games. Just wait until the next Nintendo Direct when they announce more Virtual Boy games instead of the GameCube games that you bought the service and possibly entire console for. And 2 years from now, when you think they'll finally add Double Dash to their service, they'll announce that they're adding CDI games. I also want to talk about the lost art of localization that's been hurting not only Nintendo Directs, but also interest in a lot of Eastern media. Basically, there's this idea that localized media is and always will be inferior to the original version. However, contrary to popular belief, the point of localization isn't just to butcher media for the sake of pandering to a specific audience. Rather, it's adapting media in such a way that maintains the spirit of the author's work while accounting for sensibilities of a foreign market. There's definitely a conversation to be had about what elements of a story should be left alone and what can be changed in order to maintain the spirit of the original, but the point I'm making is that not everyone who engages with Japanese media likes it because it's Japanese, and as a business, getting complaints about there being too much anime isn't one to be written off as entitled Westerners. Rather, it's often indicative of a desire for more localized products. And I shouldn't have to clarify this, but when I or anyone else says too much anime and your response is, OMG, Japanese company makes Japanese cartoons? Don't you know that they're all technically anime? You know that's not what I'm talking about. When we say there's too much anime, we mean there's too much of this and not enough this. Stop acting stupid. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't really see the problem with there being localizations. The original version will always exist, and likely so will subtitles, so adapting an artistic work for other markets will only broaden the appeal. But I also don't buy the idea that every single piece of media is so sacred as to be untouchable, because things like this are definitely better off staying within their country of origin and frankly shouldn't exist at all. And while you can argue that this is censorship, which a non-zero amount of people will do, both the people who approve this and anyone crying censorship should be put on a list. This is so gross that the fans had to make a mod to fix it. Anyway, the point I'm making is that for a presentation like this, there needs to be a better balance between the types of games they showcase. Update: Nintendo channels are back to doing direct rumors again because this one was so disappointing even though it really shouldn't have been. Listen, if a direct is slated to come within the first quarter of the year, that's not worth spreading rumors over. You might as well be telling us the server maintenance schedule. Guys, this is so sad. What are you doing? This community is in shambles.